Hello YouTube, Chris the Frugal Audiophile with you. Welcome back to my channel. Before we get things started here, just want to remind you, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy my content. I am quickly approaching 2,000 subscribers, so help me get there by smashing that subscribe button. Well, for today's video, I want to take a look at two mini Bluetooth speakers. I really don't know how to define mini. You can see them here before you, but they are quite small. And I was looking for a portable Bluetooth solution where I could have stereo sound. And that led me to the Anker SoundCore Mini 3, as well as the Sony SRS XB100. And so that will be the two speakers we are looking at today. And for this video, my assignment was to find a compact stereo Bluetooth speaker solution. I also looked at the JBL Go speaker, and I didn't really care for that one. It did not have the ability to stereo pair, and to me it wasn't a great sounding speaker, but I did consider it when I was looking for a Bluetooth speaker solution, but I did not end up really sticking with it for this comparison video. And that is why we have the two speakers before you. So to begin, let's talk about what they have in common. The first thing is they have a very similar housing. Both are a cylindrical plastic housing with a metal grill on top and then a silicone, I guess you call it a foot on the bottom or a ring. The Anker has more of a foot and the Sony has more of a ring, but it's a very similar design either way. Now, both of them did come with a fabric carrying strap. I immediately took both off because I just don't like those things. I mean, the Sony, for example, had a huge strap, and it just looked kind of weird with the small cylindrical speaker, so I removed both of the straps. But that is there for those who like such things. As far as common specs, you're looking at an upward firing full range driver. There's no mid-bass and tweeter separation. Is just one driver, as well as a passive radiator that's somewhere in the tube. I think they're both on the bottom, but I'm not going to take it apart to find out. Both of the product pages tell me it's there, so I will trust that it is. And given the vibration this thing creates, I think that the manufacturers are not lying. Also, they both charge via USB-C, which is really nice to have a modern charging solution. Finally, they both have a built-in microphone for hands-free calling, although neither one is going to be a great sounding microphone, but it is there if you need that. So now let's talk about what they don't have in common. And first I want to look at the Anker SoundCore Mini 3. Now the Mini 3 is a Bluetooth 5.0 speaker. It has IPX7 rating, which means it is splash proof. It also has something called PartyCast mode, which means you can connect 100 plus speakers together, but they all are going to be in mono. More about that later. And the Anker has a rated frequency response of 90 hertz all the way up to 20 kilohertz. It is also rated at 6 watts of power. Since these are sold separately, I would guess that is per speaker, so a total of 6 watts output for the speaker. Also, the Anker has the SoundCore app, which allows you to control some of its features, such as EQ, which is really handy to have. It'll also show you battery level of the speaker, since there is no indicator on the unit itself. And the SoundCore Mini 3 has a rated battery life of up to 15 hours. You can also see on the screen there the measurements for the speaker. You're looking at 2.8 inches in diameter by about 3 1/3 inches high. It weighs just over half a pound, and you can get this one in black, silver, blue, and red. I had the red version, but I sent it back, and then you see the black one before you right here on the table. Finally, the SoundCore Mini 3 sells for around $40. The price fluctuates a little bit. I believe that it was down to $30 on Black Friday, but on average it's about $40 for the speaker. Now let's talk about the Sony SRS XB100. And to begin, you're looking at Bluetooth 5.3 on this unit. It has a rated 46 millimeter driver. Could not find that driver size on the Anker. Now this one is IPX67 rated, which means that it is both dust and splash proof. Now unlike the SoundCore Mini, the XB100 has stereo pairing, which means if you have two speakers, you can pair them together and they will play in stereo. I tested that out and it does work. They actually are a left and a right channel. When you pair them, there will be a voice prompt telling you which one is left and which one is right, which I think is really cool. Left, right. This one has up to 16 hours of battery life, so a slight edge over the Anker, but it's really going to be quite close. The XB100 is rated from 100 hertz to 20,000 kilohertz. Very similar to the SoundCore Mini, just doesn't get quite as low. It was difficult to find power handling for the Sony speaker here. What I saw was that it said it consumes 2.5 watts of power. So I'm going to go with that's kind of the rated power handling for this speaker. So a little bit less than the Anker, and I didn't notice a difference in volume between these two speakers. This speaker is a little bit bigger than the SoundCore, and because it is about 3 inches in diameter and then about 3 3/4 inches high, it weighs slightly more at 9.6 ounces. And this one comes in dark gray, silver, turquoise, and orange. Finally, the price for the XB100 is going to be around $50. So this brings me to a comparison of these two speakers to begin. Both paired very quickly with my iPhone 12. Also, both have very similar battery life. It really was not an issue. Rarely do I use a speaker like this for more than a couple hours at a time. So it doesn't really matter, but it's good to know that they can last for 15 to 16 hours if you need that. As you may have noticed in the previous section, the Sony is slightly bigger than the Anker speaker. You can tell it in the hand. Visually, it's a little bit more challenging to tell. So if that matters to you, that's something to consider. If you want just the absolute smallest speaker, that would be the Anker. I like that both have USB-C charging. It's nice to only have to carry one type of cable to charge my iPad and my Bluetooth speaker and my earbuds, etc. So that is very handy. Now, one complaint that I have about the Anker is that it does not have stereo pairing. And if you recall in the assignment, I was looking for a portable stereo solution. So that's a knock against the SoundCore Mini 3. As I was doing my sound comparison, I noticed that these two speakers sounded very similar. There were some differences, but overall the sound was quite similar. So I would give the sound quality edge to the Sony. But I'd say that the Anker has more treble, it's slightly more pronounced. However, it does have EQ settings. That's something that you could change. The Sony sound profile is just what you get is what you get. And it sounded a little more warm, but it sounded slightly bigger. So, it is what it is. It's very close. And I prefer the audio reproduction of the Sony on the live version of Tequila Sunrise by the Eagles. It just sounded slightly more natural over the Anker. Again, it was very close. Treble on the Anker gave it an edge over the Sony on Chocolate Chip Trip by Tool. It just made the track sound more lively. And neither one of these speakers is going to be a bass cannon. Bass is there, but as you saw in the specs, it really doesn't begin until about 90 to 100 hertz. The Anker is ready to go slightly lower than the Sony, but in playback, I really couldn't tell a big difference. Also, the Sony's bass radiator shook the speaker so much that it really rattled the surface on which I placed it, as you can see in this video. The rattling was quite a bit more pronounced on the Sony than it was with the Anker, as you just saw. So that's something for you to keep in mind. Maybe you need to get a pad to put the Sony speaker on or something like that, or put it on a softer surface. I'm not sure, but I wanted to make you aware of that. Now, I'd say that the Sony's ability to stereo pair with another speaker gives it an advantage over the SoundCore. Now, the Sony can only pair with another XB100 as far as I understand, but the SoundCore Mini 3 here, it can pair with other SoundCore speakers that have that partycast mode, but again, it's going to be a mono setup, so that's just something to keep in mind. But the fact that the Anker can be paired with the SoundCore app gives it a slight edge, because then you can do EQ adjustments and tailor the sound to your preferences. So I guess you have to decide what's more important to you. Do you want stereo pairing or do you want EQ settings? And finally, I prefer the available colors of the Anker, but that's just personal preference. So now let's talk about my recommendations. First of all, if you want stereo pairing, then you're going to have to go with the Sony as far as these two speakers are concerned, because it is the only one that has that. If you don't care about that and you just want the cheaper choice, then the Anker is a fine option. If you want dust proof along with the splash proof, then you're going to have to get the Sony, because the Anker does not have that dust proof rating. So which one did I pick? Well, you can probably tell from my video here that I'm going to go with the Sony, largely because of the stereo pairing. I also like that it has that dust proof along with the splash proof rating, because that will be nice in harsher environments. Also, as you can see in this picture here, it fits perfectly in my little kit that I use for traveling. The case here is actually for a JBL speaker, but it works great for two Sony speakers, as you can see. So have you heard either one of these speakers? What do you think of them? Do you agree or disagree with my findings here? Which one would you have chosen? Would you have chosen the Anker because it's cheaper or because of the SoundCore app rather than going with the Sony? I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Well, I thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoy my channel, please be sure to check out Patreon and buy me a cup of coffee. And remember, frugal doesn't necessarily mean cheap.